Cool, thank you. I was gonna speed through this talk, but I've been told I have 1 or 2 more minutes, so it's still gonna be fast, but I'll try to go a little bit more legibly for everyone. So hi everyone, I'm Mike. I run a company called Tecton. What we do is we help you make the best use of your data to improve the quality of your models and improve the quality of your AI applications. We do that for companies like Coinbase and for Block. They power a lot of their real-time AI using our platform. What I want to talk about today is something focused on the personalization use case. Personalization is going to be huge. There's a number of studies that estimate that personalization is going to add big number, $5 trillion to GDP over the next 5 years. So that's a crazy number. We never hear numbers start with T very often. So how is that going to happen? Well, it's not going to be incremental stuff. It's going to be very step function changes. So what I want to talk about today is what are some of the architectures? What are some of the architectures that we're starting to see that people are using to build really high quality personalization in this new world of LLMs? So as a motivating example, let's imagine we're starting a startup and we want to just completely crush booking.com. We want to have a cool travel website, and the idea behind it is right when you come to this website, we just give you the best recommendation, right? Well, how could we do that? How can we even like ask an AI for this? We could ask, ChatGPT, where should I go for my summer vacation? If we powered it behind the scenes, we just prompted, an LLM. But we know what kind of quality answer we're going to get from that, right? It's going to tell us basically a lowest common denominator answer. It's going to say, in this case, go to Greece. Greece is a nice place in the summer. Why does it give me that answer? It doesn't know me. It's not going to tell me a better answer than that, right? Maybe I don't even like Greece in the first place. So when I'm trying to get that answer, right now an LLM is giving me an answer that's kind of like a stranger. It's maybe an expert, maybe like a domain expert. It's kind of like a travel agent, but it's a stranger, and that's why it's telling me go to Greece. But what I'm really looking for is something to act as like my best friend and to be a travel agent, right? It should be able to say, hey, I know you love rock climbing. I know you love Westerns. You've never been to Utah before. There's something special happening in Utah this summer. It's a perfect place for you to go. That's a really high quality recommendation. And what a magical product that would be. What a step function change in personalization that would be. And that's how a lot of value is going to be unlocked. And every company has use cases like this, has places where you can hyper personalize your customer experience and really up the game. So how do you get these better recommendations? Is it like fine tuning a model? Kind of, that'll give it a little bit more intrinsic knowledge, but it won't really know that much about your user. It won't help the model know more about your user. Should we do prompt engineering? That's kind of just like asking the question a little bit differently, so it's not going to fundamentally change the knowledge your model has. So the big term is RAG. What is RAG? RAG is just allowing the system to go and retrieve other relevant information to provide it to the model. And so that's really what we're going to focus on here. But when we talk about RAG, the traditional or kind of like naive version of RAG is, or the most common way that you see it done is embed this query, go to a vector database, get some candidates out, do a similarity search based on the embeddings, and you get these candidates, and then you pass it to a model, and the model will help you make the decision with it. The challenge is that maybe there's not enough information here for the model to make the right decision. Right here, it's kind of plain. It's just have a city and a country name. That's a little bit of a lightweight example. But what do I do with these candidates? I inject them into a prompt, and so I'm telling my prompt is you're an expert travel advisor. Give me the best recommendation, etc. And here's the places you should consider. And but like there's not really enough information here for this model to give me a good response, right? So I'm passing this kind of prompt with candidates into my model, and it's kind of acting as a stranger, right? It's saying, go to Greece. But it needs to have better context. And context is really the information that is relevant to the task at hand or to the given situation that allows the model to reason properly and make the right recommendation for you. So instead of like these uncontextualized candidates, which is very lightweight information, we really want the model to know everything about the things that we're reasoning over. So we want to know like what activities are happening in this place, what kind of people go there, what's the budget, you know, what's the weather, is it a safe place, what language do they speak, et cetera. You can think of like infinite traits here, and it's not unlike the traditional notion also of like features in predictive ML. And a lot of this stuff may be new or have changed since the model was trained, so that's one of the reasons why fine-tuning may not be great for this. But then we can take these more enriched candidates and pass them into the prompt in the same way, right? And then the model is going to be able to make a better recommendation. So we take these candidates, we connect to data, destination data, sorry if I'm blocking it, and we need some process to bring this data together, to join it, and then we have our prompt with these enriched candidates, this enriched context, and that allows the model to say, hey, you know what, you should go to Paris this summer, the Olympics are happening this summer, right? And that might be a better recommendation, but it's still not really personalized. It's still kind of just like a stranger level recommendation, right? It has nothing to do with me. Maybe I hate sports. And so it's not personalized. So what we're also looking for is really high level of user context. User context is everything about me. It's what I've done in the past, what my preferences are, what's my budget, you know, what kind of places do I like? Do I like physical activity places? Do I like adventure travel? All of that kind of stuff. And we want to involve that in the prompt as well. And if I can say, here are the places that you can consider, and then here's everything about me and the stuff I like, the model can reason over it a lot better. And ultimately, we're building this kind of more complex data architecture, right? It's connecting to all of the information about the candidates. It's connecting to all of the information about the user. And this is a very simplified view of this architecture, but it's kind of challenging. But then I can get a better recommendation. Hey, Utah's the best place for you because of X, Y, Z, right? And so the moral of the story here is that higher quality context, context leads to better quality of response. And so as we try to personalize every part of our user experience more and more, the game is going to be about building better and better context about a situation, about your customer, about everything that is like a relevant detail for this decision. So what's actually happening here in this kind of middle layer, this kind of context assembly, context construction, right? Well, there's a couple of things. It's just data engineering. There's ingestion. I got to connect to all of this data. I'm transforming it in a certain way, right? I got to extract the relevant signals. I'm storing it, preparing it for when I need it, or when I'm making this inference. I got to enable retrieval, and I got to join all of this stuff together. And that's how I can, and all of that stuff needs to happen and be productionized in part of my reliable enterprise-grade application, right? And this is tough to do. It's a lot of data engineering work. To get there, I need to figure out how to do this in a way that it's not going to be insanely expensive. I can't have a team of 50 data engineers build this every single time. So the goal is how do we control the difficulty to implement this while allowing the context to be much better and growing the quality of my responses. Okay, so how do we build these amazing contexts without needing a huge engineering team? I'm going to go through this pretty quickly. Talk about 4 levels of personalization. The first is kind of like not really a real level. It's what we talked about, no context, right? It's just getting the raw candidates. Without context, you're left with bad responses. So let's just jump to level 1. Level 1 is where I use batch data. Batch data is, think of it as like I'm connecting to my data warehouse or my data lake. This is where I can bring in user preferences, user history, stuff like that. What's the user's favorite activities? And then I can get candidates that are enriched with batch context and get slightly better responses. This is, you got to do batch ETL. You got to figure out how to do historical data evaluations. There's complexity here, but it can be figured out. And I'm going to skip this. The point of this is it's really easy to do this with Tecton, but I'm running low on time. And so then you can get a recommendation that's like, hey, you should go to this place because you have an interest in this. Or you haven't been here before, but you've been to similar places. So that gets you to level 1. And we want to go all the way up to really high quality context. So level 2 is how do we use your recent behavior? This is connecting to streaming data. We want to look at your current interests, what you've just been looking at. Maybe you've just been watching a bunch of kayaking videos in the past 5 minutes, and so you're probably really interested in some physical something, or you just purchased something else. So that's where I integrate streaming context. And this is tough because now, as in terms of implementing this, I'm using, I have to figure out how to build streaming pipelines, and even more, productionize streaming pipelines. That's really hard, and that's a whole new domain of engineering. And on top of that, that introduces a whole new domain of like cost concerns. And so this is just like adding another whole dimension of complexity to my application. But you can get way better recommendations. And so if you're building a world-class personalized experience, this is a thing you may have to take on. Finally, level 3 is where I'm including real-time data, real-time context. So like, where is the user right now? Right? What is happening in that location right now? What's the weather? Stuff that's just like a real-time current, part of the real-time current context. What query? What are the user input into the website? What's the traffic? All of that kind of stuff. So you have this, and now you have this much more complex situation where you have to connect to batch data, streaming data, real-time data, and you're going to produce a qualitatively better outcome, a level of personalization for your user, but it's a larger engineering problem. And this is way harder to implement. You have your AI team now building real-time data pipelines that are productionized, like enterprise-grade production ready, right? That's tough. And integrating with third-party data sources, you're going to call out to a weather API or something. That's just a much bigger engineering project. And this is the kind of thing that Tecton helps with. But if you get this right, then you can have really interesting personalized recommendations. Hey, there's a last-minute opening, a short walk away from where you are right now at a class that you've always wanted to take. And it's a kind of recommendation that would just not be possible if you had not had the right level of context for the decision here, if you hadn't integrated with the right data sets. So I'm just going to add one bonus level, and then I'll finish here. There's one final kind of newer way of personalization is introducing memory or feedback. So wouldn't it be great if then the customer can say, the user can say, hey, you know what? I don't want to go somewhere, or I want to be somewhere warmer this summer. And then your recommendation can take that into account as well. So you can have an iterative experience with your customer. That's something that I think we're going to see more and more. And this concept of context, it's important for every domain, whether you're doing e-commerce, whether you're doing marketing, communications, building content. Context is the key to personalization. And I think we're going to see an architecture like this more and more. We're seeing our customers building this stuff and trying to figure out, like, what is this architecture? But this is what we're going to see increasingly in the future. But don't forget that you've got to figure out how to do versioning, collaboration, all of that kind of stuff. How do I make sure the right data is being used or not being used? How am I monitoring this stuff correctly over time? This is what we do at Tecton. We help you build AI that knows your users. So if you're interested in this, I'm sure I'm over time now, so I'll be happy to answer some questions afterwards. Thank you very much. Do we have time for questions? We have time for one question if there is a question this time. Yes?
So what about the security or data privacy layer in all of this?
What about the security or data privacy layer?
How do you overcome the data privacy issues that individuals are trying to retain or not trying to retain? Like, it's one thing to engineer all of this, but
Yeah.
another thing if there's various levels of user acceptance.
Yeah, the question is, like, how do you think about data privacy in a world like this, right? I think it's a real challenge. We talk to a lot of companies who are trying to figure out, like, I want my AI team to go fast and build cool experiences, build a cool recommendation system, but like, there's so many compliance concerns. There's so many restrictions on how I can use data. How are they going to be an expert at that and then implement those things and be building AI and productionizing it at the same time? That's really tough. And that's one of the domains of how we help our customers speed up, actually. We have a lot in the product to allow them to automate a lot of the compliance and data governance considerations that they would have when building a production-grade AI application. For example, in all of those data pipelines, how do you do GDPR? Well, you've got to delete a specific user. In Tecton, you can it's just one API, and you can delete all the data across all of those pipelines. That's like a impossible task if you don't have something helping you with that. It's just a small example. Hopefully that answers it. Thank you. Okay. Thanks so much, everybody. Appreciate it.